Hey, man, look at that. The Nuggets Thunder series. The last game that the Nuggets and Thunder played was the worst combined field goal percentage in an NBA playoff game in the last 21 years. Showtime. Welcome back. We are here for another fun-filled, packed episode of the Corner 3 podcast. I'm your host, Tone, joined by my fellow co-host, Jarrett, Rush. Fellas, how are y'all doing tonight?
Not bad for a conspiracy day in the NBA.
The NBA never rests.
Hey, for this episode, for tonight, what you can expect on this episode, we're going to be talking about NBA playoffs, looking at some of the series, tapping in our takeaways, our views on where it's at so far. We're going to talk about how we feel about round two. Round one was extremely exciting. We're going to give you our insights and thoughts on how round two has been. We, of course, are going to touch on the NBA lottery, as kind of hinted at right there. What is being done with the first couple picks? Who goes where? Should they make trades? All that conversation. MJ joining NBC and much more. Before we get into it, like, share, and subscribe. Smash that like button so we can teach the algorithm and let them know to push out this great content to the masses. And while we are on the conversation of subscription, subscribe to the Basketball Intelligence newsletter. They are sponsoring tonight's episode and the podcast in general. Shout out to Aaron. Shout out to Evan. Great content they putting out over there. I'm going to ask y'all, we're going to switch it up. Where do y'all want to start this episode? What do y'all want to talk about first?
We got to start with the lottery, man. We have to, right?
Definitely the lottery. Definitely.
For those that might have missed it when you're watching this and you turned your phone off, you went on a darkness retreat with Aaron Rodgers and you might have missed it. The number one pick went to the Dallas Mavericks. Number 2 is Spurs. Number 3, 76ers. 4, the Hornets. 5, the Jazz. The Wizards got 6. And the rest, if y'all want to bring it up, we will bring it up. I only mentioned the Wizards as the 6th team because we have somebody here that covers the Wizards. So we will talk about them. Looking at that number one pick, do the Mavericks keep that pick by taking Coop, or should they trade it for a vet? Being that, Nico has already said, I have a timeline in my head of 2 to 3 years, we get in a chip.
I think you keep it and you draft the best player available. I guess, I don't know if you're sold on Coop as the number one pick yet or not, but all mock drafts would suggest that Coop is the number one pick. So I think you pick him. And I think it's like found money, right? So if you're Nico, you're going into this offseason thinking you'll have a, back end of the lottery pick. I'm not sure what their other draft capital is like this year, but then you're going to do a lot of your damage in free agency and maybe a trade or two. So that's his timeline he's speaking of. Now you get the number one pick falling into your lap. I think you can still draft a Cooper Flag and still keep whatever your timeline, whatever your game, because he's only adding to whatever you were looking to do. So, I mean, I don't know about bringing in another big gun, because you would almost have to get one to justify. If you're Nico Harrison, you trade Luka, now you're going to trade the number one pick. You got to get, a superstar back. So I think they'll do I think conventional wisdom would be to take the guy at 1, and then look at doing everything else later. That you were planning to do. But man, if they trade that pick, it would be wild. And I wouldn't be mad at all the chaos that comes after it.
Jarrett, we kind of talked about it pre-show. Do you feel that there's a possibility that the NBA somehow set this up for the Mavericks to get that number one pick, and then the Spurs yet again having a top 3 pick? We know the history, David Robinson, Tim Duncan going there, and then the 76ers, after having a bad season and Embiid's injured, knee surgery, you got Maxey, they get a top 3 pick. What's your thoughts on how this panned out?
I feel like Adam Silver is punishing the lottery teams. Well, the supposed lottery teams that was tanking to get a top 3 to 4 pick, and he's basically like laughing in the face, like, "Ha ha, got y'all. Told y'all y'all not gonna be work doing this tanking stuff." But you know, this all goes back to the David Stern era with like LeBron leaving Cleveland. Cleveland get the first pick for like consecutive years or whatever. And then now with the Spurs getting potentially, another rookie of the year if they draft right. Mavs losing Luca. They lose Luca. You get AD. Dallas get Paige Beckers on the WNBA side, and now you're about to get Cooper Flag. Like, come on, like how, like both Texas teams, WNBA and NBA is being spoiled right now. And I mean, the conspiracy theories, they might be right with this one because how did they possibly pull this off? Like, what was it, the fourth lowest chance of getting the number one pick?
1.8% is the fourth lowest odds in NBA history for a team to get the number one overall pick.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. This NBA script is definitely doing a number right now.
The script is scripting. Before we even talk Wizards, because that's the number 6 pick, I think one of the most interesting positions in the draft is that number 2 slot. The Spurs have the number 2 pick. You got Wemby, who's coming back. You got De'Aaron Fox. You got the rookie of the year, Stephon Castle, on the squad, and a bunch of other young pieces. What do they do at 2? Rush, should they stay and just keep building a young squad, kind of like the OKC pamphlet? Or do they say, let's go all in, let's go get a vet, solidify a top 6 seed in the playoffs, and go make noise in this extremely competitive West?
Go get Giannis. That's all I gotta say. Just go get him. Like, it couldn't have been a better consolation prize for not getting the first pick than winding up with 2 and 14. Add to all the other draft capital they have, future draft capital they have stocked up, and all of the young guns that they have on their squad, not named Wemby, Fox, maybe Castle. Those we were talking about before the show. I think you package those 2 picks together and you go get a guy. Why not? I mean, Fox is young, but I mean, you don't want to just, if you have an opportunity to go get a mover like Giannis or maybe another disgruntled superstar who might hit the market between now and beginning of next season. If you got the opportunity, why not? Especially now while you have the cap space or can easily maneuver to get the cap space to be able to have, all those players. Because Wemby's extension is going to be coming up in a couple of years. You're going to extend him as soon as you can. Fox is, I believe they extended him or he's extension eligible soon. I can't remember off the top of my head. So, while you've got the cap flexibility, I think you go get a guy who you can fit in relatively easily.
Jarrett, there's another team though at 3 too that are in a very good position. Embiid has the surgery; he'll be back next season healthy. Paul George, hey, shut it down. Don't worry. Don't hurt yourself. We good. Maxey, breakout season. Oh yeah, by the way, they got Jarrett McCain coming back off an injury, who had a great season and really was the rookie of the year before he got injured. Stephon Castle says thank you. 76ers. What should they do at 3 with their pick? Because after Coop, Harper, not too many of the hottest options out there. They're good, but there's no other Cooper flags. It's not the deepest class of blue chip players, as they would say.
I was on Twitter and a lot of people were saying, oh, like, the Sixers, if they get a chance, they should go after Ace Bailey, stretch forward, okay, like kind of stretch the floor for Embiid. another wing to pair alongside Paul George. So I say keep the pick. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen after this season with how Embiid and Paul George injuries are holding up. And, they're both in their 30s. So why not, try to go young? You got Maxi, who's still young, and I don't think he would have sat out the majority of the season if, there was a better opportunity for them to make the playoffs. I feel like they just kind of just shut him down. Then you got McCain, who's still young as well. And you got a bunch of young players on that team who really show that they could be solid rotation players. So I say, keep the pick, try to draft the best player available, and work from there. And hoping Bean and Paul George can stay healthy, and then playoff contention, possibly championship contention, depending on how everything works out for them.
So y'all gonna call me like Mr. Fake 2K over here, but I don't know why I'm in a trade happy mood. But I would actually use the pick, maybe even attach it to a Paul George, and maybe use it to sort of get out of jail free with with Paul George's contract. I know that's kind of like probably crazy to say, and after I have a chance to sleep on it, I might recant. But it depends on how you project next season to go, right? Like, I know they got a lot of guys coming back. We never really got to see the whole team really mesh together. So, I mean, if you're Josh Harris and you're comfortable and you're really confident that, hey, no, we get a healthy Embiid, a healthy PG. He just had some freak injuries. Maxi's back healthy. We got McCain back into the fold, and we can add, one of these top three rookies. Then, yeah, maybe you run it back. And I love Ace Bailey. Dylan Harper doesn't really make sense, and I don't know that he'll be there depending upon what the Spurs do. So, yeah, I think because then you have another guy in a couple of years once PG and Embiid sort of age out that you can still have a big three with McCain and Maxey, and then you got Bailey or whoever else you pick. So, yeah, I think I agree with what Jarrett said, but if Embiid's knees looking shaky and if you're just out on Paul George, then maybe use the pick and PG to go get maybe a couple other guys who are on lesser contracts who you can sort of plug in and sort of help you stay competitive. Because all those contracts in a couple of years is going to be looking real scary for them, salary cap wise. And I hope
Ideally, who would you
match?
Ideally, who would you go for?
Who would I go for what in a trade?
If the Sixers were to trade the third pick. Like a star echelon player.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it just depends on who's available, right?
The only name we've been hearing is Giannis and KD.
Maybe you take a risk and go get Zion. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe.
Hey, that's a lot of
New Orleans.
Grubhub and DoorDash is gonna be up.
Him and Embiid on the same team. I don't know. That's gonna be
a change of environment. Maybe he just really wants to be out of New Orleans. I don't know how much better Philly is. I've never been personally, but it can't be any worse in terms of the ownership. Not the city. I love New Orleans, the city. Y'all don't come for me. But in terms of the ownership, but I don't know. I mean, that Zion's a name that's been floated out there as sort of being available. So maybe New Orleans is willing to eat Paul George's $200 million contract if it means that they can get, one of these top three guys and they can essentially have their reset.
That's a good, interesting look right there. Zion has been floated out. It just hasn't come out official. I think if he speaks out and says something, then we might see some movement. Since you are in a trade happy mood and it is that season and we're going to see all of the rumors flying for the next, especially how the lottery panned out, the trade scenarios and all of the sort is going to be bananas for weeks to come. One that was thrown out before the lottery even happened. Bill Simmons said, hey, send Embiid to the Lakers. Would you be interested in an Embiid to the Lakers trade option?
No.
Oh,
Oh
Well,
my God.
I mean, theoretically who's going to Philly in the trade from LA?
Austin Reeves was a part of that.
Right. So what? Reeves, Vando, and Gabe in a future first,
Or maybe Connect.
or Connect? Yeah, probably Connect in there. What's Embiid, like 30? 31? Is he
About
in his
30,
30s
30.
yet?
I think he's 30. I can fact check that. Let me see.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
31.
31 with bad
31,
knees.
yep. Yeah,
Maybe a change of scenery being in LA. Nice weather.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't excite me. Doesn't, as Charlemagne said back in the day, it doesn't move me. So I would probably say no, mainly because you have to move a lot out to get them, but you don't necessarily have any cap room to sort of replace a lot of the guys that you're sending out. And he doesn't really fit the mold of the kind of big that Luka wants, right? Like, or thrives playing with. So does that mean Luka can't play with him? No, but I just don't know if it's effective team building around Luka to go and get Embiid. I think that they could do more doing something less drastic.
So from what I'm hearing from, your response right there, going into this offseason, Rob should be mainly talking to Luka on how the roster should be constructed going forward over LeBron.
No, that's not what I said. But I think Luka's. I think they'll talk to them both, right? Because LeBron is LeBron. But absolutely, building this team going forward they're going to do so more with Luka in mind than LeBron, because he's 25, 26, and he's going to be the guy in a year or two when LeBron retires or maybe goes and plays with somebody else. But I think you kind of have to, because I think he's quite clearly the best player on the team, and pretty soon he'll be the most important player on the team. So I think any sort of roster construction has to consider them both, but I think you would sort of look at who fits well around the style we want to play, which is going to be built around Luka.
To your point earlier,
I see what you were trying to do. I don't appreciate it. From one Lakers fan to another.
I had to ask the question because it's been you've seen in Lakers Nation has been the conversation of, should LeBron take the max next year? Should he opt out? Should LeBron even have any say?
And let me say it right here, he should absolutely take the max. If someone's going to give you $51 million, you take it. They're like, hands down. I don't care how old you are. I don't care who you are. Like, I'm always going to be pro players getting as much money as they can. I respect it if they want to take less to help the team build. Hats off to any guy who does that. But no, take the money. I mean, you don't need advice from me. But if you were to ask, I'm going to tell him to take the money.
And the thing is, at his age, I think it's the over 35 rule that they're maxed out by how much they can make anyway. So LeBron, Steph Curry of the world, they can't get the contract that SGA about to get, even though at this point in their careers with all the accolades, and both of them are probably making an all-NBA team this year, they would be in the running for that 80 million or stuff like that. But they placed that in there, that new rule that protects teams basically, because we've seen Vince, so we've seen Kobe. You get injured on that back end, and that team got to eat that 70 mil. So they put that rule in there because it's just natural attrition that could happen over 35 in the NBA and just in life in general, because we know a couple of people I'm sure we've met over 35 that's not in the NBA that have had some little nicks and knacks that put them out for weeks. To your point earlier, De'Aaron Fox, he is eligible for the extension, but he decided to decline it because he knows 2026, that bag gonna be different. Everything's gonna go up with the budget and the franchises and everything. So he's waiting on that regard. Jarrett, that was a great point too, mentioning Ace Bailey, because Ace, one of his favorite players, Paul George, That would be great for him. I'm sure he would love it. Learn from PG. His favorite players are PG and Kevin Durant. Obviously, he won't end up in Phoenix. So
Paul George, huh? Interesting.
A lot
yeah,
of these young kids like Paul George.
It must be
Rightfully
the
so.
It must be the hairline.
Yeah, but you know what I think it is with Paul George? You know how a lot of people when we was younger like loved T Mac.
hmm,
I think it's something like that. You know, like the style, play, tall, skinny kid who could do multiple things with the basketball and play both ends.
that's true. And I was just playing, but no, I didn't. It does surprise me when people say that Paul George is like their favorite player, but I think that's more so like a generational thing. Like I'm used to people saying like Bron, Steph, Kobe, all these guys that are maybe like KD who are on their way out or guys who have just like recently retired in the last few years. And it's just, younger generation coming up. Like the equivalent of everybody I just said is like the Paul George, the Devin Bookers, like those guys. So, but yeah, that's a good point, Jared. Yeah, I guess it is kind of like a parallel of like T-Mac and all those guys. But PG was also hooping, especially after I think that year after he came back from the leg injury, like he was ball. I think he finished what was it, top 3 in MVP that year in OKC.
top 3 MVP,
Yep.
top 3 MVP rate. Yup.
Yeah.
And defensive player of the year.
So yeah, he was definitely balling. I think it's also his game is more aesthetically pleasing. The highlight reel is more aesthetically pleasing versus no disrespect to Bron, but as the kids say, like you said, generational, his bag is deeper than Bron in regards of how it's viewed on the offensive aspect. Paul George, he can do the tween behind the back, step back, and it's a lot of tough shot making.
You think PG got a deeper bag than Bron?
I didn't say I think so.
Oh, you talking about the kids.
I've talked to some middle schoolers, high schoolers. They feel the bag is deeper.
I'm not saying it's not. I just never thought. I don't think about basketball in bag terms.
That's what I'm saying. It's generational.
Yeah.
They think of it in bag terms. Like when they asked Brandon Miller why did he have Paul George as his GOAT, it was a lot of bag talk and how he
Kanye Anthony.
Yeah, so you feel me? Like I think it's generational in that regard. Speaking in the generational aspect, it was hopeful. We were all saying Coop to DC is not happening unless somehow a crazy trade and y'all able to move up, y'all hold a team hostage or whatever, something like that. Maybe it's punishment since the doc came out, running back what Gil did in the locker room to Javaris Crittenton. But y'all got the 6th pick. What do you see your squad doing? Not your squad, you cover them. I know your Knicks ain't in a lottery, so and we'll talk about the Knicks later. But 6th pick for the Washington Wizards. What do you think they're doing?
As me covering them, I've learned to really like this team, because I watch them every day. I've covered them. Like you grow attached to this team and the players. But honestly, something in the back of my mind told me like something's going to happen. We're not going to get the top pick. So I was like, if we don't get the top pick, like if we fall anywhere from 3 to 8, I say take a swing at Derek Queen. Um, and honestly, I was just watching a video of Bob Carrington, who was at the draft lottery, and they asked him about playing alongside Derek Queen, possibly, and growing up with him because they're from the same neighborhood. And he said he will be happy about it. He loves Derek Queen, and I feel like it'll be a good fit alongside Sar. You have that kind of that mid to inside presence because Sar is not much of an inside player as of yet. He's more of a
Right.
3-point shooter, big stretch 5. Derek Queen could work anywhere from 15 below. So I feel like it would be a nice compliment to each other. They compared Derek Queen to Jokic, so I don't know. I don't see it as of yet, but I feel like it's a good consolation prize.
Only thing I'll say on that regard with the Jokic comparisons, that was just lazy by people during March Madness. You watch a game, he does not facilitate nowhere near on the level that
Exactly.
Jokic does. Maybe he didn't have the teammates to make that happen, but that baby Jokic, for those that was making that comparison, stop. Just because he was an undersized big, a little bit seemed overweight, wasn't the super strong body frame. Jokic, no, more. He was more. I think more something like a Zebo type of
Mhm.
player. He was
I think,
more of like a. I'm gonna get my bucket. I'm gonna
yeah,
rebound. I'm gonna get down and dirty. But Jokic is a facilitator. That part is not there in his game as of yet.
I think you know what it is. I think people was trying to compare him to Jokic because of the one-legged jumper at the buzzer. I think that's because of why they see Jokic do that so many times. And I feel like what Derek Queen did is like, oh, that's Jokic. That's the same move Jokic doing. And it's like, I mean, a lot of people do that. It's not just Joker. Kevin Durant do it. Dirk was the one who coined it. It's not Jokic's move.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's a little bit lazy. A lot of people
Mhm.
aren't. Um, they don't go back at least and do the history of finding out about the game. Um, Obviously, we weren't around when George Mikan was playing, but I think everybody on this screen and for those that tune in and watch, like shout out to Aaron, we go do our research, we go do our history before we make takes. Like, oh yeah, this play right here is he's the best point guard ever. Pause. Let's look back.
Hey, I hope. I'm sorry, I'm jumping in, but I gotta say something. I hope y'all get a chance to watch basketball with Aaron, like in person, because it's such a fascinating experience. Like I've never watched ball with somebody who like pays attention to like all the granular details, like someone's foot position when they're coming off screens and relative to how well they shoot, and like he's just I mean, we all know he's a basketball junkie, but like just the knowledge and like the way that he analyzes the game, it's beautiful. I felt like I was in school. Like me and Jess were down there for summer league, and he was rapping. I was in there taking notes on my iPhone. I'm like, man, I gotta start watching this guy like this. And we were doing player comps. It was fun, but man, Aaron is like he's. I haven't been exposed to a lot of people like who are either in the league or are relatively close to the league, proximity to the league, but he's by far like just the most advanced like basketball mind, I would say, that I've been exposed to.
That's
And
why
he's
him
coaching now.
coaching.
Yep.
That coaching job, them
Yep.
kids, they don't even know who they got on the coaching staff. They gonna be way, way better for it. Now we're gonna go over to your actual team, the team that you rock with, Tim's and Orange and Blue Skies, the New York Knicks. They start off the series. They win the two big games over in Boston. They lose game three. Didn't look that good. Some question marks on Tibbs and his offensive game plan. Right now, they're down 62-51. What are your thoughts, Jerry? You started off. What are your thoughts
Mm.
on the Knicks and how the series is turning out as of now? And I kept it in a tuck because y'all was up 2-0. Are you feeling Tibbs is on the hot seat whether y'all win or lose this series?
I feel like for the social media um people, he's on the hot seat. I don't feel like his actual job is in jeopardy for some reason. Like I just don't get that impression from the management or the team. Like it seems like everybody loves Tibbs in that organization. Um, Personally, I mean I love Tibbs as well. Like I'm happy that he's helped us get back to this prosperity of winning and have us the expectation of winning every single game. Because it's a great feeling to have as a fan of a team. To go into any game and feel like we have a chance. But I don't know. I mean, it might be time to move on. I mean, there's a lot of good coaches that are available out there. So if we were to go in a new direction, regardless of what happens with this series, um, I feel like there's some good options out there for us to, propel us forward. Only because, some coaches can only take you but so far. And sometimes you need that one coach that's going to take you. that next step. Like for example, we wasn't born yet, but when Magic won his first year with the Lakers, they nobody talks about it, but Pat Riley wasn't the coach. They won the championship, but they didn't seem to. I think the report was that Magic didn't really like that coach or something like that, or he wanted Magic to come off the bench. It was something like that, and they ended up going with they could end up going with Jerry West at first, and then they would decide to go with Pat Riley, and then the rest is history. So sometimes sometimes a firing can lead you to breaking history.
For you, real quick, right? What is the level of concern for your Knicks in regards of actually winning the series? Because you are down right now, but that's not a problem for y'all. But one of the issues, though, is that you guys are getting off to slow starts. And honestly, if we look at the entirety of the series, the first three quarters, pretty much outside of game three, the Celtics, game one and game two, actually played the best basketball the first three quarters. Y'all pull it out in the fourth quarter. What level of concern are you having that you guys can actually win this series now?
It's it's like a roller coaster for me because like the first three games, well, first two games I should say, like we've been down and we came back. So the expectation was game three. Like, all right, we're down. All right, cool. We can come back. We did it the first two games. And it's like Boston was like, nah, we're gonna keep you up our foot on the next. And now we down again at the half. So it's like, what are we gonna do? So honestly, yes, I am concerned because after that game three beatdown, I'm like, this is insane. I was at Dave and Buster's at a kids party watching the game, and once I see the score, I was like, I'm gonna give you a drink because I already knew what was about to happen. So I'm nervous. I think I'm gonna make me a little drink after this pod and, and pray for the best.
Hey, Rush, I want to ask you on the Celtics side, right? So Tatum hasn't had the best series.
Why are you asking me about Celtic stuff, man? I don't do that. But go ahead.
Well, don't
Hasn't
let
had
Jeff see
the
this.
best hasn't had the best series, but at the half, 20 points, 8 of 13, 4 of 7 from 3 with 6 rebounds.
Mm.
Has the hate of Tatum been warranted? Or kind of is it a forced thing now where it's like it's popular to be like, all right, we waiting for Tatum to have a bad game. Let's hate on Tatum regarding, like his career and his playoff series. Is it like the popular thing now to do?
Yeah. I think it is a popular thing, but to me, that's how you sort of know you've arrived as an NBA superstar. When they're waiting for you to have one single bad game, and then they want to talk about your legacy and everything else. Like it wasn't just one game. Like Jason Tatum is an NBA champion and has really done nothing but win as long as he's been in the league. Like the Celtics have been relatively successful as long as he's been on the squad. So you never want your best player and maybe even two best players to be having subpar game, like multiple subpar games in a series. But this team is so experienced and really strong 1 through 7 that, okay, Tatum's not doing well. Here's Peyton Pritchard. You know what I'm saying? KP battling his, whatever illness or whatever. Oh, here's 58-year-old Al Horford. You know what I'm saying? Like they've got guys who can come in who know their role, are superstars in their role and can contribute. So even when your top two horses aren't, necessarily playing all that well, you don't really see that much drop off, which is why Boston was still able to sustain 20-point leads games 1 and 2. And then, ultimately the wheels come off. They let their guard down. But they've been up, I think, by 20 points in every game so far this series. We'll see if that happens tonight. But I mean, that's all a testament just to everybody really being solid in their role. But yeah, I don't quite remember the original question, but I know it was around Tatum. I think he is, definitely a superstar. I do think it's unfair that he gets a lot of hate because if you look at his numbers, I mean, he's elite. But I think it just comes with the territory of being a superstar in this league and an NBA champion. but she is.
Looking at one of the other series, right? I mentioned at the top of the show the struggles of the last game between OKC and Denver. Series is tied 2-2. It's been up and down. Aaron Gordon has looked good. Russ has looked good. They don't have the deepest roster. They don't play 10, 11. Flip side, OKC, SGA hasn't had the best series, the SGA type of series. Chet hasn't had the best series, but they are able to go in a game where you have Wiggins coming off the bench has a good game. Not J-Dub, but the other Jalen Williams comes in and has success against Jokic. The Thunder, 2 lowest offensive rated games for the Nuggets, right, have come against the Thunder. Jokic, 3 worst games this season, including the playoffs, have come against the Thunder. Looking at the series going further, which team do you have the more confidence in that they'll actually be able to win this series?
You want to go first? I think the Thunder got to me have the better odds of winning the series. Like I think we talked about it before, like how deep they are with their roster and how well balanced they are. That's the word I'm looking for. I feel like from like top to bottom, like 1 through 15, they're really good. Like you could plug and play any player on that roster, and they can go out there and produce. Um, Not so much with the Nuggets. Nuggets is really to be top heavy. Um, Even though Aaron Gordon's having a great series, great playoffs. Russ also having a good playoffs. Christian Brown, he's good. Michael Porter Jr. is dealing with the shoulder injury, but he's still playing pretty productive basketball. Seems like he's doing a lot more than his usual just, don't swing the ball, shoot play style that he usually is accustomed to. But I just think OKC, this is their year to get to the finals. I honestly feel that way. I feel like they can definitely beat the Nuggets. Especially like the convincing wins that they had and the convincing style, like of blowing them out some games, and they're kind of like closing out. These games. They're really good at closing out games most of the time. And if they lose, they're not losing like in a blowout fashion. So I feel like the Thunder's gonna pull it through.
Rush, with the stuff that I mentioned of how the Nuggets have struggled offensively. Yeah, OKC and 6. I know.
OKC and 6. I'm sorry.
I'm aware. I'm asking, do you feel that OKC has figured out how to slow down Jokic, or is it just that Jokic doesn't have enough help?
I don't think it's Jokic doesn't have enough help. I think it's how well. I think the question should be how well is his help playing, right? Because he's got Aaron Gordon, he's got Jamal Murray, he's got Michael Porter Jr., 3 guys who were right there with him in the thick of it when they won the title. So it's not like, I mean, other than I think a couple of rotational guys, KCP obviously was a starting 2 guard for them, and then Bruce Brown, I believe, off the bench. I mean, other than those guys, I mean, they've got the core nucleus that they had when they won. So I don't think it's a matter of he doesn't have enough help. I think it's how well are those guys playing. But I do think you should absolutely give some credit to yes, Uncle Jeff. I do think you should give some credit to OKC. I mean, they were, I believe, top defense in the league, or to at least top 3 defense in the league. So, and that's not for nothing. So you're never going to completely stop Nikola Jokic or any other superstar in this league, but you can't make things difficult or try to make the others beat you. And if they're not, then, it might force, that superstar to try to press a little bit more and shoot a little bit more than they normally would, because, the other guys aren't hitting their shots, which I think is a little bit of what we're seeing with Jokic too. So I think it's a little nuanced, and I think it's a lot of different factors. So I think it's a little bit of what OKC is doing. I think it's a little bit of the Denver guys, some of the Denver guys not really pulling their weight. And I think we're seeing why, or seeing how that sort of affects Jokic with his numbers the last 3 games.
I think that's perfect way to word it, because what you want to do with Jokic, typically, where if teams have had success of slowing him down, not stopping him, is Jokic go score 100. We're cool with that. Where he hurts teams the most is when he goes and not only scores 25 to 30, 35 points with 15 to 20 boards, it's when he has 8 to 12 assists. When he's getting the others, as they say, the others involved. When you are able to get a 25-point game out of Murray, where you're able to get a 20 game out of Porter, who's only playing with one arm, like that is where it hurts the most. On the flip side, a team that's been hurting very much so in regards of not having their star player, the Warriors, Timberwolves, they're down 2-1. They play tonight. It's no timeline really on when Steph is going to come back. What are your takeaways and thoughts going forward with this series? Is there any chance, and you can start it off, Jarrett, where we see the Warriors can maybe tie it up and could keep it competitive till Steph gets back, or is this really like the Timberwolves series to lose?
So I don't know if y'all seen that clip of Ant and Gary Payton Jr. Talking about, oh, y'all just trying to make it go six before Wardell to come back. But nah, I think it's over. I think it's over for Golden State. I think they're this is the series that I don't want to say it breaks them apart, but I feel like this is the series that they gonna have to sit back and realize like, all right, we need to fully reconstruct this thing. We can still keep Steph and Draymond, but we have to like really take a look at how our future is going to go with this team, with Steve Kerr at the helm, and really make some hard decisions when it comes down to. I mean, if it comes down to trading Draymond as well, I mean, hey, I mean, gotta do what you gotta do. But
Trade that angry
um,
black man.
man, that Draymond was wrong for that. But yeah, like they gonna have to make some hard decisions because I think this is their series to lose. I mean, hey, I mean, if they have trained Jimmy as well, then so be it.
Rush, one of the players that has really been excelling this series and this playoffs as a whole. It's Julius Randle. It seems like he's changed the narrative on his career and his playoff performances specifically because Jarrett knows some playoff performances over there in MSG.
I've always been a big Julius Randle fan. Julius Ewing, always been a fan. I've always root for Julius Randle.
What have you seen, Rush, before Jarrett breaks it down? Because he might tell us he always had this in him. What have you seen from watching Julius Randle so far in these playoffs and the success that he's had? And to throw it out there, he's the first player since KG 21 years ago to have a triple-double in the playoffs for the Timberwolves and the first player to have a 20 and 10 game back-to-back.
It's funny. I not to name drop, but I went on Show About Sports earlier today with our guy GP, and we talked about the Timberwolves and Warriors, and I had to I had to give Julius Randle some credit, which was tough for me because they eliminated our Lakers in 5 games, and you would think I'd be over it by now, but clearly I'm not. But for the sake of the podcast, I fought through it and put on my objective lenses. But I mean, one of the things I said was it's not like even in the games that Steph has missed, which is essentially all of them in this series. He played the first quarter, and then was out in game 1. It's not like the Timberwolves have been like really stellar on offense. Like these games haven't really been all that pretty. And even in game 2, when they got out to that big lead, they sort of let Golden State back in. And then of course they pulled away. And hasn't, he's been great, but starting off games, he's been a little slow. But Randle has really been like, I think their most consistent guy from the beginning of the playoffs to now. I think, you compare him and Cat. I think with Cat, depending upon how certain teams play them, Cap would sort of drift, out away from the basket, out onto the perimeter, which is sort of playing into what teams wanted him to do. Whereas Randall is getting his spots. He's hunting and this is probably scheming. So shout out to Chris Finch, but they're hunting the weak link on defense. They're getting the switch, and then he's going to work mid post on down, and nobody can do anything with him. Like Julius Randle's like a freaking ox down there. Like he's just moving people around, even Draymond. So, when you look at even the Lakers series, but whenever teams are when the Timberwolves have been ahead and teams are starting to make a run and the Timberwolves need a bucket, obviously you think you go to Ant, but Julius Randle has really stopped some opposing teams' runs, just getting a couple of buckets here or there, or sort of spurred a Timberwolves run of their own by getting some really timely buckets. So I think he's been their most consistent guy. Maybe you could argue their most important guy in this run. But definitely shout out to him because he's been hooping this offseason, or this postseason, excuse me.
He's been doing his thing, as the young people say. Speaking, Kane, we talked about generational. He's doing his big one. He's doing his big one. Shout out to the ladies that use that colloquial term. Y'all get that. For those that don't know, just Google it and you'll figure out what.
And shout out to all the lady listeners and watchers we have, the Corner 3, because we haven't done a whole lot of WNBA content. Not that just because you're a woman, you tend to look for WNBA content specifically, but we haven't done a whole lot of WNBA content, which we will as we get through the playoffs and into the summer. I know the league kicks off Friday, but just shout out to y'all, shout out to the women in general, and happy belated Mother's Day for any mama listeners we have of the Corner 3 pod.
Facts, we appreciate you, and even if you didn't give birth to a child, you are a motherly figure to somebody in their life. So we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Thank you. Keep helping us go up as we continue to grow. The next series that's left in these playoffs, man. We are speaking.
Do we have to talk about this one? Because if I can say confidently that one is over, I feel like it's this one. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Speaking of, when we have the conversation, you mentioned motherhood, and one of the things that you can guarantee of a good mother, if her back against the wall, she gonna figure it out for her child. The Cavs, their back is against the wall, but I don't know if they're gonna figure it out. What were your takeaways from this series? Is do they get a pass because of the injuries?
I don't know. Probably, and maybe not a full pass, maybe like a quarter pass. But I think the mistake, not the mistake. I think the natural tendency a lot of people have, myself included, when looking at this series, is they immediately start with the Cavs. I think that's because they're the number one seed, and for most of the season they were had the best record in the league. Indiana is hooping. I feel like this series is more about what Indiana's doing than what Cleveland has or hasn't been doing. Indiana, number one, I think is just a matchup nightmare for the Cavs. But their offense is hitting on all cylinders. Halliburton is orchestrating this beautiful symphony that is Rick Carlisle's X's and O's. Turner is balling. Ben Mathurin, who they didn't have last year because he got hurt, I think, either right before the playoffs or in the first round. It's just, this team is just, and then I didn't even mention Siakam. The team is just hooping. And defensively, they've done some things that have sort of disrupted the Cavs. And I think the problem is, and which is why a lot of people compare the Cavs to the Hawks, the old Hawks team, is that even with Donovan Mitchell, you see them struggling to get buckets at times. I need a guy. The Houston Rockets have the same issue. We really need to stop this run, or we really need to go on a run. Donovan Mitchell is capable, but he hasn't been doing it so far in this series, outside of the one game that they won. So, and I take that, but he did have the 48, but they lost, which we had told to have the exchange in the group chat, because I didn't think that I thought there was no way Cleveland was going to lose, and Tom was like, "Yeah, all right, watch." And then of course they lost. I'm glad we didn't put any money on it. But yeah. But the last game, they just looked. I told Griff it was like watching a JV team try to play a scrimmage a varsity team. Like the Cavs' body language was just like, we're not even supposed to be here. Like we don't know what to do. And you down 41 at halftime, and you a number one seed. Crazy. But yeah, shout out to Indy and the way that they've been playing. Shout out to Tyrese Halliburton, who's really responded since that whack overrated poll came out. And yeah, I think Indy's gonna put this thing away in 6, maybe.
Hey, I agree. Some are saying they're lucky and this, that, and the third, but they still got. You don't control who you play. You still got to go beat the opponent. And I would even go as far. That wasn't JV. That was freshman against varsity. Because when I was on JV, we gave them jokers hell. So that wasn't a JV squad. That was a freshman squad. That was maybe 8th grade. Maybe it was a charity game. That's the vibe it gave. Because I'm sure you as well. You've seen JV teams that are legit. Like, oh, yeah, solid. That wasn't JV. They didn't. They looked like they did not belong there. But given the Pacers love, do we think that the Pacers are actually true championship contenders?
Y'all know my prediction was the Cavs to win the championship this year. It's looking bad. It's looking real bad. But I don't know. I don't know if I can see Indiana being. Let me say this. I don't want to see Indiana being a champion. That's more like it. But I don't know. I just don't see them beating anybody in the West. Like I can't see them beating the Thunder. I can't see them beating the Timberwolves. I can't see them beating. I just see them beating Golden State. I can see them. No, I can't see them beating Denver. So I mean, at this point, maybe they could get to the finals. Probably. I mean, barring what happens with this series. Still got the Knicks in 6, and I think the Knicks can get to the finals. But let's guess we just have to see. I just can't see Indiana being a championship caliber team. And I mean, maybe I'm underrating them. Maybe I am. Maybe they're better than I think they are.
With how it's going and how it's panning out, it's a very likely chance that it might happen just off the strength alone, too. If they finish this series tomorrow, maybe 6, but if they definitely finish it tomorrow, y'all gonna beat each other up. Knicks Celtics, this is about to be a heavyweight fight. Y'all didn't take care of business in game 3. If y'all won game 3, then it's like, all right, it's not happening. They're not gonna come back down from 3-1. But y'all gave these jokers hope. These the champs. The Celtics are the champs. So whichever one of y'all make it through, this is like a heavyweight fight. It's Ali and Tyson fighting right now. Ali and Frazier, Ali and Foreman. One of y'all jokers is coming out limping, having to see Indiana, and they're gonna be ready. High powered, fast-paced offense. It don't matter if it's a make or a miss. We running. It do not matter. And it's constant. It's not many teams where you can have Tyrese is pushing the pace like that. Nimhard when Tyrese is in. And by the way, let's go bring in TJ McConnell. That's going to do the same thing. 3-headed monster with guards that's going to keep the pace going at all times throughout the game. Shout out to Rick Carlisle and the system that he got going over there. I think it's beautiful offense because we see more sets with the Indiana Pacers. It's not a lot of one-on-one offense. And I think part of it is because they ain't got no one-on-one players like that. But it's not a lot of one-on-one offense is pass, cut, down screen, Iverson cut. They're getting open shots, and that's because of the offense that's set up there. And they're willing passers. So shout out to Indiana. One of the teams that was plagued in the 90s was the Pacers because they had to see that man, Michael Jordan. Some would call him Black Jesus. he is returning to just the television. We really ain't seen Mike around outside of TMZ, and maybe if he over there, you get to see him on NASCAR or one of those type of things. But MJ, in some capacity, which we don't know, and I'd love to hear what you think possibly is going to be his role. NBC announced a legendary addition to our team. We are thrilled to welcome Michael Jordan as special contributor to the NBA on NBC and Peacock. What was your reaction and your thoughts when you saw that post, when you saw that tweet, when you saw that thread, that NBC, who already has a great lineup, is adding MJ in some capacity to their lineup with the NBA coming back to NBC?
Yeah, I was excited, man. Especially consider that's kind of, I mean, just me personally, that's where it all began in the 90s, and NBA and NBC, Round Ball Rock, those Bob Costas monologues, intro in the coverage. And then, of course, you sort of equate Jordan with that. So NBC is, I think, definitely doing a lot of the right things in terms of preparing for next season. When the new TV deal kicks in, I can't wait to see what their production looks like. They announced that they're going to do the player intros too, which is a little nostalgic touch. So I think it's really just putting the cherry on top of everything NBC has done so far and is doing to prepare for their coverage. I'm wondering. I'm very curious to see how they utilize him too. I imagine they can't get too much of his time, but I would love to see him interviewing like whatever, if he does like a segment or a special, like maybe just seeing him interviewing like top players. Cause I just think that would be a really cool touch to see, arguably the greatest player ever, or the greatest player ever, however you feel about it, trying to either speak into or trying to pull stuff out of, this next generation of great players. So I think that would be cool, but any way that Mike is involved, I'm down for it.
What was your takeaways, Jarrett, when you saw this? Because one of the things I'm looking at, I'm like, yo, NBC they killing it. They are, like Rush said, they are preparing and setting it up where they might not miss. It's really just they are putting their best foot forward to make sure at least this first year of us being back for the NBA TV deal, y'all gonna be hooked. They got the crack veins ready for next season.
Yeah, I think like Rush said, the nostalgic feel behind it, with everything, especially with NBC, you said they're bringing back, showing intros to games. We all got that from Jordan, with the music and everything. So it feels great to see all this, and like I'm wondering how they're going to utilize him as well. Will they be having interview players, or will they have him like just watching the game and breaking down certain plays in the game that he sees, kind of like what ESPN did with Kobe with the detail series? Um, so I'm actually really wondering how that's going to go about. But anyway, Jordan is involved. I'm always invested in because I always find Jordan a character. Every time I see him, he's always like doing something that's like to me is hilarious in some way, like as far as like him being super competitive or just him being like some like a drunk uncle at times. So like any way he's involved, like I'm all for it. I just can't wait to see him being fully into the media because Jordan isn't mostly he doesn't be in media too much unless we see him at like you said NASCAR things like that. To actually have him commentating on basketball for a change is going to be a nice thing to see.
Yeah, I could see it already. Christmas Day, they show a clip of him talking to Bron. If I play now, you won't be able to stop me. I can see it. I can see it now. Because MJ still to this day is extremely competitive. So if, like Rush said, he is talking to some of these players, that's going to be great conversation. I mean, they all are still competitive for the most part and they're open about it. We saw Bill Russell before he passed was like, I would have locked your ass up. Bill Russell at that tender age was talking crazy like he was going to lock somebody up if he played in this era. So I'm excited.
Did you guys see the video of Jordan when he challenged Magic at the 75 anniversary?
That's my
I'm just,
point. My point
I'm
exactly. Him,
You see that,
Magic
Rush?
and MJ. Magic and MJ was literally talking at the NBA 75 anniversary. Like, what's up? You ready? Still
Mike
at that
literally,
point.
Mike literally said, like, get your chicks, we can go play right now. I think D-Wade D-Wade and Melo talked about the story. And
I'm
the clip
taking Mike
somehow
in
went
that.
viral.
I'm taking Mike in that one. Mike still look like
For
he
sure.
is in better shape. Magic is enjoying the
Fruits of his
fruits of
labor.
his loins. Yeah, fruits of his labor. Like 1,000%. All the different business ventures, and now he's getting multiple rings in different sports. He chilling with Cookie. He ain't thinking about nothing else.
nothing.
Stack this paper and make sure I treat my wife better than I did when I was in the league. So that's his main his main focus right there. We gonna end off with this one right here. Lil Prime versus Prime. Prime versus Prime. It's always those fun conversations, the fun debates of if this player was in a prime, who would they be? Who would they play against? This, that, and the third. One of the names that always pops up in conversation, because when this man retires, honestly, the conversation we have to have around him, the context has to be specifically on his prime because of injuries and how injuries affected his career. Prime Kawhi, prime KD. Who are you taking?
Are we doing like verses, or are we just like who's better? Like, who would you rather have on your team? Like, what?
Who would you rather have, prime Kawhi or prime KD?
I'm gonna say KD.
For the, you know, I'm gonna say Kawhi, based on the two-way aspect behind Kawhi. That's why. And you know, if you put their resumes up together, it's almost not. I won't say almost identical, but they had like probably like the same amount of accolades.
I think, and we could have a whole episode on this. We could add it in each episode and only talk about a couple players here and there. But when it's all said and done, Kawhi, I think, will be in that conversation of biggest what ifs. Peak Kawhi before injury, like you said, two-way player, absolutely scary. Prime Paul Pierce, or would you rather prime Luka Doncic, which you could say he's still in his prime, but they often draw comparisons because of their style of play?
This one's actually a little bit easier for me. I'm gonna go with Paul Pierce.
Whoa!
I'm going the truth as well.
I'm going with Luka.
I'm going with the truth as
Paul
well.
Pierce not a scrub at any stretch, but
Prime Paul Pierce was some years ago, but prime Paul Pierce was, and defensively too, though. Defensively too, though. And I think that's more so why I would feel comfortable just going with him is outright, because I feel like Paul could really do anything that we see Luka do now, but he could also lock up defensively too, and actually wanted to, right? Like he wanted to guard Braun while they were still keeping him from winning that ring in Cleveland and Miami. So yeah, I'm going with truth, but I still love Luka, my Luka Lakers. It hurt me, but my basketball mind just had to go with the truth.
I mean, the same reason I got Kawhi, the same reason I got Pierce. So I mean, yeah, I have to change it. I might have to go with Paul as well. because the
All
same
right, we
reason,
got
defense.
a clean sweep on that one. The last one before we get the preview and some predictions and expectation on the Washington Mystics season. And like Rush alluded to, trust and believe, even more deeper WNBA content, some deep dives. Of course, we're going to do just like the NBA, our predictions with awards, who wins MVP, all of that good stuff. Who wins? Yeah.
Where did you get that from? I need
But
one.
last one,
I like that.
prime Dwayne Wade, prime James Harden.
I knew it. I knew it. Um, and before I say my reason, um, I think James Harden is a top five offensive, like I said before, top five offensive talent that I've ever seen. But the two-way aspect of it, I gotta go with Dwayne Wade.
I just
but I
want
Hands
got,
down too.
but
to.
I gotta go with Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade was one of my favorite players when I was younger, so I gotta go with him.
Oh man, these are hurting me, man. Because I've become a James Harden apologist somehow. I don't know why, but I've become a bit of a James Harden apologist lately. But a prime Harden was special offensively. The triple doubles and just the everything offensively. And is an underrated defensive player when he's engaged, especially on ball. Like he's got really, really quick hands. Like you always you keep go and find clips of him poking like KD at the top of the key or whatever. But Dwayne Wade was obviously a much better defensive player than James Harden. As well as, he offensively, he was as good a two guard in that era as you could find. In an era that included Kobe and AI and Vince and T-Mac. But I'm gonna go with Harden.
Ooh. Mm.
That's not to say career-wise, I pick Harden over Dwayne Wade, but just prime, like the 3 year or whatever, 4 or 5, whatever window you want to classify as someone's prime. I think I'm gonna take Harden. I think his offense was I'm sorry, bad tone. I think his offense was that good.
So we will end off the show with this one. The season starts Friday. Our man Jarrett will be at the season opener for the Mystics. What are your expectations for the Mystics this year? What are you predicting of how their season goes?
Um, they're essentially this is the first year of them embracing the rebuild. So I think they'll be very competitive. Um, Probably, borderline playoff team. Maybe make a sneak in as an H seed. But I think, I don't want to say it's a lot to expect on them because of the rebuild, but I feel like they have a lot of pieces to build with. I am eager to see how the fit of Shakira Austin, Kiki Iriafen, and Aaliyah Edwards work together because essentially they are all mostly power forwards to like a center role. So I'm wondering at some point will one to be playing the three and they go with like a positions basketball lineup. Um, yeah, I mean, Aaliyah showed a lot of potential of playing more as a small forward, being able to shoot the ball, handle, defend on the perimeter, one on one. So maybe she'll be the one that will get the nod at the three. But I'm kind of looking forward to it. They let a few players walk. They traded a few players. Elena Deladon finally retired, and she's in the front office with the Mystics now. So I'm eager to see how the season goes. Really excited, especially with the new coach and the new management, just to see like what kind of play style that they implement for this team and how it will work going forward to, to be a sustainable, successful team going into the future.
Friday, the W is officially back. We are going to definitely talk about it because my aces, A1, the sneaker, elite. I gotta get me a pair. They gonna do their big one this year for sure.
They sold out in 15 minutes
Bruh.
after they dropped.
Aces. It's cool. Yeah, I see Rush flexing the shirt and all that good stuff. We ain't thinking about them. It's
I am.
of course you are. Y'all two are Dallas Wings fans now this season. So
That's right. I'm all up on the band. I am
That's
executive vice president of the Dallas Wings bandwagon fan club. So if you need an application, come see me.
Hey, so this is gonna be the
I'm about to
conversation.
be Nico's. I'm about to be Nico's security guard.
This will be the conversation for the year. We'll be definitely diving deeper into the WNBA season with it starting and all that good stuff, as we mentioned before. Please do share with any and everybody. If you are a basketball fan, and I already knew I was trying to close it off real quick because the Knicks are up now. Yeah, it was a live reaction. The Knicks are up 88-85 going into the fourth quarter. So we got to end this one so we can go watch that fourth quarter. You already know the vibes right here. This is the Corner 3 podcast. Tell any and everybody about it. We out.